There's a great article in the Epic Times, and it's called How the COVID Response is Priming the Next Pandemic. A dramatic rise in antimicrobial overuse is fueling the rise of dangerous new pathogens. Now, I don't say this to scare you. I say this because this is factual evidence that is terrifying. We thought COVID was terrifying. Let me tell you, this will be next level terrifying. Let me explain it. I'm not saying this to alarm you. I have warned about this for a long time, way before the quote-unquote experts have come out and made their statements on it. So let's dive in. But before we do, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski, and I'm grateful that you're here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell because it's really important to hit that bell if you want to know about new content released. And also make your way on over to www.drz.tv for all my natural health videos. Now, before we get started, because this is going to be really good information, do me a big favor and smash that thumbs up button so that the algorithm recognizes that people are liking this video and participating in it, and it shows it to more people. Let's dive into this, guys. This is important stuff. Antibiotic resistance is one of the biggest public health challenges of our time, declares the CDC. And while antibiotic resistance and antimicrobial resistance, which is abbreviated as AMR, took a backseat to COVID-19 pandemic, the problem hasn't gone away. Antibiotic resistance refers to bacteria resistant to antibiotics. Antimicrobial resistance is a broader term used to describe resistance to drugs among a variety of microbes, including bacteria, parasites, viruses, and fungi. Now, imagine this. Imagine you get a bacterial infection. And bacterial infections are horrible. When you think of like things, you think of bacterial infections that were out of control. Think of the Black Plague, okay? Now imagine your body just started like, developing this huge bacterial infection. You went to the doctor and they're like, there's nothing we can do for you, right? There's nothing. We have nothing. We have no tool in our arsenal to fight this issue. And you're like literally like rotting from the inside out. And there's nothing that can be done. Well, that's what they're talking about, because what they're saying is that there's these superbugs that are being created due to the overuse of antibiotics, due to our wonderful medical system that hands them out like Tic Tacs, and then also just due to so many people using things that are driving this resistance issue. And what's happening is that we have no way to fight it. So antibiotics is certainly, they've saved so many lives, and we should be very grateful for them. They were a blessing and a curse because they were handed out way too often, used too often, and now it's a serious problem. Now, this here is something pretty crazy because the tragedy of this problem is that our body depends on many of these microbes for proper function. Current practices are harming these helpful microbes and creating more dangerous ones, according to the World Health Organization. They say that the antibiotic resistant bacteria is one of the top 10 global public health threats to humanity, but it rarely makes front page news, especially now that COVID has entered the arena. Oh my gosh. The COVID-19 pandemic and its unprecedented promotion of hand sanitizers, antimicrobials, including antibiotics and disinfectants, has even made AMR worse. Can you believe that? Okay, now they're just coming out and saying this. Now, I want to go back in our Wayback Machine, our time machine, and I want to go back to November 21st, 2020, when I had actually warned people of this actual issue. And, I like to actually show evidence that I warned people of these issues because a lot of people think that I'm like, being the armchair quarterback, the backseat driver, and I'm just like saying, oh, I told you so. No, I literally told you so. And I'm finding that I have a lot more of these told you so moments, and I don't say that proudly because I think it's sad that we're having these moments. But the fact is that I just read the data and I present it like it is. Okay, I didn't suppress data like so many of these big tech companies did. I didn't lie like so many of our illustrious leaders did. I just told you the facts. Okay, November 21st, 2020. I wrote a post on Instagram, and you can follow me at dr.nick.zarowski on Instagram. You can see my Instagram handle right there. So I recommend following the information that I put on there so that you can stay informed. I've warned of these dangers of hand sanitizers for years. The danger is that it kills the healthy bacteria both on and in our bodies. These healthy probiotics play Not only a huge role in our immune system, but literally every bodily function. The ecosystem of bacteria in the human body is called the microbiome. Did you notice how I said it plays an important role in our immune system? Seems like that would be pretty important during a pandemic with a virus, right? After years of promoting bad information, the FDA warned against using antibacterials on June 27, 2020. A study was published warning the frequent use of hand sanitizers causes antimicrobial resistance and an increased chance of catching viral diseases. Now, this is something I had known for years and years and years, way before they ever came out with this. That's why I would never, like, if I saw hand sanitizer in a grocery store, wouldn't touch it. I just was very much against it because it's horrible for you. Now, on June 27, 2020, the FDA warned against it, saying that frequent use of it would actually increase your chance of catching a viral disease. And yet, the funny thing is when I wrote this article, I could not find that study to save my life or that statement or anything by the FDA. Like the big tech monopolies, they literally hid that and buried it under a rock somewhere. I couldn't find it. So when I wrote this, I was writing it based off the knowledge I had in my head of this particular statement by them, because it literally couldn't be found. Because do you think that people would have been wanting to use a whole bunch of antibacterials if they knew that it increased your chance of getting viruses and bacterial infection? Now, I went on to say people today are using antibacterial lotions, the wipes, as if they are a gateway to health, but it can actually be quite the opposite. Cleanliness is important, but it doesn't come without a consequence. There is zero doubt in my mind that this will have a severe negative effect on everyone's health. Okay? Now, what is the CDC and the World Health Organization saying today? Okay, I said this last year. Now, in society today, I understand it's expected of everyone to use sanitizers, so let's work on counteracting the side effects. Myself and my family use probiotic-infused lotion. We take skin-supporting probiotics daily. This supports a robust and diverse microbiome and also truly protects our bodies from foreign invaders, okay? So that was the Wayback Machine. I'm just saying this to prove to you that I'm not making this up. I actually was talking about this then. So you can follow me on Instagram, dr.nick.Zarowski, and I put lots of great information on there, little things like the benefits of garlic, and benefits of apple cider vinegar, and a whole lot more. So improve your knowledge base by going over there. Okay, I'm going to jump into this part right here. But before I do that, I actually want to talk about the Black Plague, because this is something that's really interesting. And not too many people understand the Black Plague. And I think it's important as we talk about this because many scientists believe that this problem of antibiotic resistant bacteria and viruses and parasites and fungus and everything in between, they believe it will be worse than the Black Plague. And that's scary. I mean, it really is. There's been scientists, and I can't find the guys, I can't think of the guy's name, which means I couldn't find the research he did, but there was a very well-renowned professor who did research on this in one of the universities, and he literally said, that was what he had said. He said, I believe that this problem will be worse than the Black Plague in the future. Now, the Black Death was a devastating pandemic. I just want to go over this real quick because I want to have a little bit of comprehension of what the Black Plague was. So it was a devastating global pandemic of the bubonic plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid-1300s. This plague arrived in Europe in October 1347 when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked on the Sicilian port of Messina. People gathered on the docks were met with a horrifying surprise. Most sailors aboard the ship were dead, and those still alive were gravely ill and covered with black boils that oozed with blood and pus. Sicilian authorities hastily ordered the fleet of death ships out of the harbor, but it was too late. Over the next 5 years, the Black Death would kill over 20 million people in Europe, almost 1/3 of the continent's population. That is horrifying, and that's what there's really renowned professionals are saying, that this will happen. They actually say it's going to be worse. And that's horrifying. I mean, so they believe that the boat's already docked the harbor and there's no getting out of it because we're too far into this. Now I'm going to talk about antimicrobial resistance and how it grew during the COVID-19 pandemic. While the world stopped due to COVID-19, the antimicrobial agents for disinfecting surfaces and public spaces and treating patients increased. The high rates of these antimicrobial agents used in COVID-19 patients are now being blamed for a rapid rise in multi-drug resistant organisms, including, and they go through the whole list right here, I'm not going to get into them, but basically just all these different organisms that are resistant to many of the drugs that we have in order to fight them off. And that's horrifying. And you know what's also very horrifying is that there was a certain point where we knew that like COVID couldn't exist on services, but yet nobody was stopping the excessive use at any of the department stores or anywhere in public of soaking everything in bleach and hand sanitizers and sanitizers in general. In many cases, this article goes on to say, COVID-19 patients have presented with secondary infections with multi-drug resistant organisms. Fungal co-infections in COVID-19 patients are also common, as in antibiotic treatments, with one report from China suggesting that more than 70% of the COVID-19 patients received antibiotics. Now, there was a report published in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy stated that up to 95% of COVID-19 patients in some hospitals are prescribed antibiotics. Okay, so we're seeing the problem here, and this is devastating information. And so let's go ahead and talk about the excessive antimicrobial how excessive antimicrobials affect the environment. So AMR has a clear toxicological effect of the environment, in part because patients excrete a large proportion of the drugs they ingest, which allows drug residues and drug metabolites to be released into rivers and coastal waters. A lot of people don't understand this, but there's a huge problem with pharmaceuticals in our water supply and in the rivers, and this is why there's like salmon that are turning female and turtles, male turtles with female genitalia and all these crazy things happening because there's so much of the pharmaceuticals that are being excreted into our water supply. So this is why, like, you want to have a at-home water system that takes this stuff out. Definitely very, very important. Okay, so a team from the University of Plymouth in England conducted a risk assessment to determine the potential environmental impacts of prescribing COVID-19 patients antibiotics, and it revealed that the data for amoxicillin indicated a potential environmental concern for selection of AMR. The team urged such assessments to be carried out in future to keep tabs on the potentially disastrous effects of the pandemic prescribing habits on AMR. Okay, so this will facilitate development of a robust evidence base in order to guide antibiotic prescribing choices that are less likely to increase AMR and have the least environmental impact, they wrote. In other words, there are so many antimicrobial drugs being used during the COVID-19 that these substances are making their way into the environment and triggering microbes to develop resistance, okay? So this is something that is very, very scary. And we have to not only look at the antibiotics being used, but we also have to look at what the answer is to this and also the other problems that are causing this issue. It's estimated that the pesticides, fungicides, the herbicides are all just as bad as all the prescriptions of antibiotics. As a matter of fact, they refer to them as agricultural antibiotics because all these herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides are basically causing the same problem, bugs that are becoming very resistant. And when these bugs become very resistant, they can just go they literally can just sweep through the human body and your body can't do anything about it. Like it's very difficult to fight it. And so here's what we can do. First of all, we need to stay off the stuff ourselves, right? We have to stay off the antibiotics and we have to stay off of all these different medications because they aren't going to have a good outcome for us. But the other thing that we need to do is we need to focus on boosting our immune system, okay? We keep hearing all the time, the next strain of COVID, the antibiotic resistance now. I mean, the best thing that we can do is have a robust and well-functioning immune system. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's the strongest thing that you can do, okay? We can't sit there and be scared of all this stuff, because that does no good at this point. I mean, we can make changes in every way that we possibly can individually, but we cannot sit and just say, well, nothing we can do about it. There is something you can do about it. Focus on building your immune system. And what I'll do is at the very beginning of the pandemic, I built immune packs. I'll put these immune packs down in the description below. You can check those out. They're called Immune Basics. Okay, it just has some of the very bare bone essentials of what is needed to boost a well-functioning immune system. The other thing that we can use is probiotics. Okay, I take probiotics. I also use a probiotic lotion. I take this stuff very seriously because I've had a gut condition that was very much linked to having a very, very poor microbiome, likely due to the 15 rounds of antibiotics that I've been on in my life. So I take this stuff very seriously, regardless of these superbug issues. But I just know that your microbiome is very important for your health. So taking probiotics, I use a probiotic lotion, and then also, as I mentioned before, make sure that you stop taking antibiotics, and then whenever possible, use a natural antibacterial. Don't go towards this heavy pharmaceutical grade stuff that's just wiping out your microbiome. I mean, look, as a child, I was on antibiotics literally probably every year for the first 15 years of my life. Thus far, I've raised 4 kids and none of them have ever been on antibiotics. I'm not saying that none of them ever will have to be, but up until this point, we have successfully mitigated every infection, and they've had multiple infections. We have been able to overcome every one of them 100% naturally. And I always have a natural antibiotic in my house. And so I'll put some of those natural antibacterials down in the description below. I feel like I need to write some sort of ebook on this topic or something, because it's so important. I mean, people just don't understand how important this topic is. But I will put resources to the natural antibiotic, the probiotics I use, and the immune boosters and everything. And I don't think legally we could call that a natural antibiotic. I think you have to just call it an antibacterial. So let me correct myself there, and I will put the link to the natural antibacterial in the description below. So take this stuff seriously. Check out the resources below if you're interested in any things I just mentioned, and check out some of the other videos on my channel as well. Make it a great day.